Gather round, kids. It's story time with Jay. Our story today is The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, there was a kind shoemaker and his wife who lived in a little house. They worked hard every day, but no matter how hard they tried, they never seemed to have enough money. One winter, things grew worse. The shoemaker discovered that he had only enough leather left to make one last pair of shoes. That evening, he carefully cut the leather into pieces and set them on his work table, ready to sew the next morning. "I hope someone will buy these shoes," he said with a sigh. Then he and his wife went to bed, worrying about what they would do next. But when they came downstairs in the morning, they could hardly believe their eyes. On the table was a pair of the most beautiful shoes they had ever seen. Who could have done this? The shoemaker wondered. A customer soon came to the shop and paid a good price for them. With the money, the shoemaker was able to buy leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. That night, just as before, he cut out the leather and left it on the table. In the morning, there were 2 perfect pairs of shoes. This happened again and again. Every morning, the shoemaker found shoes made for him, better than any he had ever made himself. Soon, he and his wife had more than enough money to buy food and warm clothes. One evening, as they sat by the fire, the shoemaker said, "We must find out who is helping us. Tomorrow night, let's hide and watch." So they left their pieces of leather on the table as usual and hid quietly behind a curtain. At midnight, 2 tiny elves crept into the workshop. They wore ragged little clothes and no shoes, but they smiled as they worked. Their nimble fingers stitched, tapped, and tied so quickly that the shoes were finished before long. When the last pair was placed on the table, the elves danced a little jig and disappeared into the night. The shoemaker and his wife felt very grateful. "They have been so kind to us," said his wife. "We must make them something to keep them warm." All day they worked on a surprise. Tiny shirts and pants, little coats, hats, and shoes, all stitched with the same love and care that the elves had given their work. That evening, instead of leaving leather on the table, they laid out the tiny outfits. When the elves crept in at midnight, they stopped in surprise. At first, they didn't know what to think, but then they clapped their hands with delight. They tried on their new clothes, dancing around the workshop with joy. That was the last night the elves came, but the shoemaker and his wife no longer needed their help. They had plenty of customers, and they never forgot the kindness of the little elves who had appeared just when they needed help the most. And so, the shoemaker and his wife lived happily ever after, always remembering that a small act of kindness can change a life. Hey, thanks for joining me today, and join me for some more here on Jay's Kids.